Well, here we are doing a little preseason scouting, early season, the summer months, and I do most all my scouting this time of year in the evening. Basically what I'm doing is I'm driving to the end of the farm, and we're going to be scouting basically the crop fields and the food sources. But I'm going to go down to the end of the farm, and I'm just going to kind of ease my way back up to the farmhouse, and we're going to stop in some of these different fields and basically just glass. We're just glassing deer. A couple of deer out in the hayfield right now, and it's hot, but they just cut this today, and I can smell that fresh alfalfa. Got to have that food. There's no acorns yet, and this is deer candy to them right now. We're out in an alfalfa field here, and it actually just goes and breaks up over the hill here. And there's usually deer on the other side, so I'm just going to kind of ease up to one of these hay bales, and I'm going to glass over the edge just to see what's out there. But as I get closer to season, now I'm looking for those bucks because their antler growth is pretty much completed, and at that point I can tell what bucks I have, and hopefully compare them to some of the trail cams that I had from last year, and I'm also paying attention at that point where they're coming to, where they're spending their time. That'll tell me where kind of the travel route of that deer. But right now these deer are just coming out in the evening to feed, and it's just a lot of fun to see them. One of the most important tools that I use this time of year for scouting, obviously, is a good pair of binoculars. So whatever you're using, make sure you have a good quality pair of binoculars when you're doing your early season scouting, because you're doing a lot of glassing in low light. See, they've got to have this new growth. These does, they have to have that new growth for lactating purposes. This alfalfa gives them a great supply of milk for those little ones. And know that in a few months I'll be in a tree stand waiting for them to come walking by. Hi, I'm Rick White, and today I want to share with you an easy but great tasting deer backstrap recipe. And it's really quite easy. The first thing I do is I just coat it with olive oil. I've got a backstrap here that I took from a deer last year. It's all cleaned up, ready to go. I just put a little bit of olive oil on it just to keep it from sticking on the grill. Just rub it on there. That's the first step. The next thing I do is I want to cut a pocket out of this backstrap. All right? Now I don't want to go through the other side. I just want to cut a pocket right down the middle. You can see how I'm opening that up. Once I've got that pocket cut open, and there's not any science to this, it's just pretty simple. Just try not to cut your finger. Now, I want to fill it with blue cheese and garlic. And I've got some blue cheese here. And really, how much of it just all depends on how big a backstrap you have. I just dump some in and fill it up. There's no exact measurement. Got the blue cheese in there. I use minced garlic. And just put a little bit of minced garlic in there. And if you like garlic, just add a little bit more. And just kind of push it in, get it right in that pocket, close it up, and the next step, now you could either tie it or you can use toothpicks and basically just close it up. I just use the toothpicks because it's easy. It's really simple. And one more for good measure. So there it is, all ready to go. Next step is just throwing it on the grill. Now it's just a matter of cooking it the way you like it. Me personally, I like my steaks medium rare, but you can cook it however you like. Here in just a minute, we'll check it. We'll be back with our guest, Mr. Jordan Dean.
Hello, you're on.
As I said, I'm down here in South Georgia on a turkey hunt, and just an update on my turkey season so far. I was down in Florida. Mike McDonald and I were down in Florida just a couple weeks ago, week and a half ago, and we, between Mike and I and the landowner, Mike Moore, we shot 5 Osceolas in about 5 days. And then I came to Georgia, and we're on day 4 now. And we have shot 4 turkeys down here in South Georgia so far. So season's going really good. I've got 9 filmed hunts in just 2 states already. So anyways, as I said, my guest tonight is Mr. Jordan Dean, all the way north of where I'm at in the state of Missouri. Jordan, how you doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm just dandy. I've been trying to fight these storms the last couple of days. We've had a lot of tornadoes down here, and they're expecting some more this evening. So I'm just kind of dodging those a little bit and trying to get out in the turkey woods when I can.
Yeah, we've had some weather ourselves up here, so hopefully it stays calm for the next few days.
Yeah. Now you told me you've been out listening a little bit, doing a little scouting. What are you seeing, in the Midwest right now?
Well, our birds are, they're vocal on the roost, probably about 20 minutes. Once they fly down, they'll gobble pretty good. Then they shut up and they'll be quiet for an hour. Then about 8:30, 9 o'clock, they've been firing them back up. So that time they've been with their hens, and then it seems like they will start back up once they stop gobbling. So hopefully that continues this weekend.
Now in Missouri, you correct me if I'm wrong, but in Missouri, I'm assuming they still do a 3-week season, and you can shoot 1 gobbler the first week, and then you can shoot your second gobbler or your first and second gobbler week 2 and week 3. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So so if you kill one the first week, you can't kill one again to the following week. So
right, and you can only hunt till 1, I believe. Is that right?
Yep, 1 o'clock is the cutoff date. So
that's I like when I go down to Missouri, because that's like a mandatory nap at the end of the day, when season closes down for the day.
Oh yeah, it's time to go find mushrooms and catch fish.
Yep. All right, so hey, let's get right to it.
one of the most important things that I like to talk about is getting kids involved in the outdoors. And we're going to be talking about taking kids turkey hunting. Now, there's lots of things that, getting them involved in, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, camping, fishing, all those things. But we want to touch, turkey season's right around the corner, and a lot of youth seasons, a couple of them have already opened, but a lot of youth seasons are really just getting ready to open, or will be opening very soon. So I want to talk about getting kids in the outdoors. Now, my kids, and I got to raise them, taking them out hunting, but they're adults now and they've grown up. Now you still have some kids that are younger, so you're still doing. Now I take some kids out when I can find a youth that I could take out. I do that. I did just this last year. Took a cousin of mine out, but you've got kids that are that age, and you're in the midst of taking kids out. So I want you to touch a little bit on that, and then we're going to talk about some strategies and tips and that kind of thing.
Yeah, my youngest, he's 15, so this is his last year. My oldest, last year is his last year. And then my stepson, he's 4, so he'll have a few more years, so he gets to go again. So even though it's my son's last year, in 2 years, I get to restart that whole thing again with my stepson. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So what do you, obviously it's an important thing to get kids, I've always told people this. And I truly believe this: kids raised in the outdoors, and hunting included, have a better respect for life. I really believe that. And I see these kids nowadays getting in trouble in school, and they probably never spent one day in the woods. So for that one important reason, we need to get them involved in the outdoors. But you remember when you were a kid, when your granddad or your dad or whoever got you involved with hunting and what it meant, and you remember those stories. To this day, you remember those. And, you really need to pass that on to your kids.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, my Missouri, when my son was 5, he was able to go. So he was 5 years old when he got to go turkey hunting for the first time. Since then, they've raised it to 6 years old, which I think is a good idea. I think 5's a little too young, but my son did all right. And, like I said, Missouri started the youth season, I think, when I was 15. So I had 1 year of youth season to hunt. So I only got to do it for 1 year, but my kids have got to do it for 10 years. So, and they look forward to it every year for deer and turkey.
That's great. Now, I would encourage those that are watching the show this evening, please ask us some questions. We can ramble and talk, and we'll bring up some very good points. But if there's some questions out there, we'd sure like to try and answer them to the best of our ability. But anyways, let's talk about some do's and don'ts. And I have lots of thoughts on that, but I want to get your thoughts on do's and don'ts when you're taking kids hunting. What are things you certainly want to do, and what are some things you really don't want to do?
Well, first of all, you want to make sure they're comfortable, especially if they're younger. If they're uncomfortable, it's going to be a miserable hunt for you and them, in my opinion. You want to make sure you got a place where you can actually hear some turkeys. If they get bored, if they go out, and they're not hearing nothing, they might lose interest pretty quick. So hopefully you got a spot where you can hear the turkeys and see turkeys. The don'ts.
Well, let's talk about this. You said comfortable, and that's a very good point. Let's talk about keeping kids comfortable, because here's my thoughts on it. You adults out there probably have the best clothing that you can afford to buy, and because kids grow out of their clothing so quick, we tend not to spend a lot of money on kids' clothing. But it is important to make sure that they're warm when it's cold, dry when it's wet. And, so take note of that. Also, footwear, boots, making sure they have a comfortable pair of boots, because you may end up doing a lot of walking, but also warm boots in the Midwest, because it can be cold during turkey season. I remember a youth season in Iowa, it was 13 degrees one morning, and I've hunted in snow many times. So, those things. And then, to me, and I'll let you talk about this a little bit. I like to take kids and put them in a blind and give them a nice, comfortable chair. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah. When my boys were younger, we hunted strictly out of blinds just because they had a nice gun rest. They could actually move around a little bit. They didn't have to set, as still as can be. But when they get older, we started doing more running the gun or sitting on the ground, with just a shooting stick. But yeah, absolutely. I think when they're first starting out, the blinds are 100% the way to go.
Yeah, and when my son was young and we were hunting out of blinds, and of course now we have cell phones and all that stuff, but I let them take those little handheld games that they could take in the blind, and they could, when things are boring and nothing's going on, they could preoccupy themselves, because, not only do you want to keep them comfortable, but you want to keep them preoccupied, because if you bore them, what are they going to say the next time you ask them to go hunting? Well, no, that was kind of boring. I don't want to do it. You want to show them a good time and let them have a lot of fun. Do this. Here's one of my big tips. All right. Take a bag of cookies with you, because my son will not leave the turkey blind until them cookies are gone. And that's a fact. So, but I'm sure you take snacks with you all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We got a backpack, we'll get, milk or, Gatorade usually. Hopefully I got a few rolls of summer sausage my boys would tear up. So we'd always cut up a roll or two in the morning before we'd go out. So donuts were a big hit. So you can always stop by the Casey's and get those on the way to the blind. So yeah, absolutely. Food and drinks were a lifesaver.
All right, let's talk about, and we'll go back and forth on this probably. Now, you were going to mention something about it, maybe some don'ts. What don't you want to do?
You don't want to, you don't want to try to hunt how you hunt. You want to, we would hunt different if it was just you and I. You want to make sure we can hunt to their abilities. Like you said, ground blind, you don't want to push them or aggravate them, or say they miss. You don't want to sit there and be like, oh, I can't believe you missed. You got to think, oh, hey, that happens. You can't get down on them if they would move or scare a turkey, for instance, or, when they're walking in, you want to tell them, my kids were kind of loud walking in the woods, so I didn't want to yell at them, but like, hey, this is how, just follow me and stuff like that. You don't want to discourage them in any way, I guess.
Yeah. Very good point. And you definitely don't want to assume that they know what you know. We take things for granted because we've been doing it a long time. I've been doing it a long time. So, don't take things for granted with the kids, because they're still learning. They don't know any of this stuff. So everything you do, from telling your child, don't point the gun, point it in the air or point it away from anybody, to don't make noise in the blind, don't move fast, don't talk in a regular voice, don't shuffle around in your chair, just little things like that, that we know not to do, but you have to teach them everything, and then teach them, why you're calling. And what you're doing, and the turkeys are gobbling, and why they're gobbling, and why they're responding the way they do. And it's a learning experience. That's why you take kids out, not only to enjoy a great sport, but you have to teach them. So any other thoughts on some don'ts? I'm putting you on the spot. So.
Well, like I said, you just don't want to, I guess, discourage them, is my biggest thing. And you don't want to force them in anything, I should say. If they don't want to do this, don't force them to do anything, like, even though you might want to do it. You don't want to teach them any bad habits. I guess that should be another thing, whether it's crossing the fence with, firearm safety or anything like that. You don't want to, adults might do something when we're hunting. You don't want to take a shortcut. If you do come to a fence, unload the gun, or don't load it till you get there. So you just don't want to teach them bad habits, I should say.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to let them hunt with Mike McDonald. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. No, and Mike's got two daughters that he takes out all the time, and one of them's very young, and she does a great job. But you're right. Don't let them expect too much, because you may or may not be successful. But Correct. Not being successful is very much part of the hunt. In fact, being successful is a small portion of the hunt. It's really just icing on the cake. It's everything else that you're doing that, to me, is more important. It's building the relationships that you have with your kid in the woods, and they'll remember this the rest of their life. So, yeah. And, I am a lot more patient when I take kids. I don't know about you, but I go and set up. I'm not going to try to run and gun with a child. We're just going to sit there. And and quite honestly, patience, especially with youth seasons that start earlier in most cases than the adult seasons. Patience will be the key to success, in my opinion, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You just, just sitting there is the best time. You can even talk to your kids, and just wait, and then hopefully something does come in, but yeah, running and gun, it's very hard with little kids.
All right.
But I know I've had some of my best hunts is during youth season with kids killing their first turkeys, or just how the turkey, just some of the best hunts I've ever had. So
Let's talk a little bit about kids and getting them out before season and actually shooting their guns, and what guns are best for kids. What shot maybe perhaps is best for kids. I mean, my son, I bought a youth 20 gauge for my son when he started hunting, and I quite honestly, I just let him shoot low brass shotgun shells and didn't even tell him I stuck a turkey load in it when it came to shooting his first turkey. Now he did notice a little bit, but not much. You know how it is when you shoot at a turkey, you really don't think about those things. But if you're out there shooting these 3-inch, full brass shells, one after the other, he's going to have a sore shoulder and he'll be hesitant when shooting. But you also need to teach them not only the practice in shooting, but exactly where to shoot a turkey. So we have turkey targets and we aim at specific points. And I don't know about your kids, but my son really liked, my Bresser red dot that I had on my gun. Because that pattern goes specifically to where that dot is. But whatever you're shooting, practice. I mean, I'm sure you go out and practice with your kids shooting, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. What I learned when my boys was, when he was 5 and 6, I learned, I thought the little single shot 20 gauges would be the best, but I was wrong. I learned real quick to get a semi-automatic because it takes a lot of that recoil off of a young kid. A lot of guys will go with a single shot 20 gauge or a single shot 410. If you can do a semi-automatic, to me, that takes a lot of the recoil off a young kid.
Yeah. And, this year, and it has really evolved. I mean, there are a lot of people. The big thing right now is shooting turkeys with a 410. And
Yeah.
Iowa legalized 410s this year. I don't know. I'm not sure if they could use them last year or not, but it's new. They're now legal. And people, and I believe you have to shoot TSS in a 410. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the case. But I know people that have been shooting a 410 and it is deadly. So it might open up the possibilities and opportunities for even younger kids to get out in a very controlled, safe hunting environment and hunt even earlier, potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, like I said, even a lot of the adults have went to those 410s just because they're lighter, to pack in the woods. You're not packing a 12 gauge around, the woods all day. So yeah, I think with the development of the new shells and the TSS and the different type of loads, I absolutely agree. Those 410s and little 20 gauges, you can shoot a bird 40, 50 yards.
Yeah. Now, do you use a gun rest or anything like that? A little monopod or tripod or anything like that? Because, it gets hard for those kids to hold that gun up for any kind of period of time. What do you use something there?
Yeah, we when the boys first started, I had one of those, like I think of Madden made them. It was like a ghost blind. It was almost looked like a butterfly. It had a little shooting stick built in. You could pull the little wire and camouflage netting came out, and they could set their gun right there on that. Now I got a trigger stick. They each got their trigger sticks but yeah, they've always had some type of gun rest, whether it be, monopod or my tripod or something like that. So.
Yeah. And, those are good things for even a woman, for instance, that, just isn't, used to holding the gun up for any period of time. Cause that barrel starts moving around in the window or if you're not in a blind, even more importantly, you start moving, those turkeys are going to see you. Now back to practicing with the kids shooting, in your opinion, what's the furthest shot that you want to have a kid take? A younger kid, not,
if he's under 10, I wouldn't push anything over 35, and that's even a little stretch. I'd say get them within 30 yards would be the safest bet. That way, if they do make a little mark, not the best shot, within 30 yards, you'll probably still kill them. 30, 35 to 40 yards. Just depends on your shooter, really. If you have a kid that's patterned the gun out to 35, 40 yards and he feels confident, because some kids are a lot better than others. Some 8-year-olds a lot better than the other 8-year-olds. So just whatever they feel comfortable with is what, probably the best thing.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say the same thing. It really is going to be up to the parents that are teaching their kids, because some kids, you may require them to shoot a turkey, 20 yards and in, where others maybe shoot better or as good out to 30 yards or 35 yards. But with the 20 gauge and the right load, or 410 and the right load, I'm going to try to convince parents to shoot 30 yards and in. Can you shoot a turkey further? Yeah, absolutely it can, but there's just a margin of error there. And I'd rather see them let them get to. I put my decoys, and this is just me, but I put my decoys when I'm gun hunting about 15 yards, sometimes even closer. But the bottom line is, however close you want to shoot the turkey is how close you want to set your decoys. Because you could put your decoys 5 yards in front of you if you want. Now, if you're gun hunting, I certainly wouldn't recommend that, because your pattern is about like that, and it's very easy to miss close up. People are going, "Oh, how does that happen?" But it is. It's easy to miss close up, and it's easy to miss far away. So you really need to, what other thoughts, with kids? I mean, I'm just trying to think here. And hopefully, I don't know, do we have any questions, Paul? Anybody jumping in with any questions?
There aren't any questions yet. Just
no questions
Steve
yet.
Harden says, "Hey, Jordan."
Hey, Jordan. Well, maybe we'll get some questions. If we do, Paul, just hit us up with that. Being in Missouri and season closes at 1, do you get out and then do a little fishing after your turkey done, or are you mushroom hunting at that point yet?
Oh, hopefully you can do all 3 of them. That's the golden rule of Missouri. The triple slam or whatever it is. Kill a turkey, find mushrooms, and catch fish. So now, actually, Missouri youth season goes all day. Believe it or not, if you're
it does. Okay.
Yeah. Our youth season, you can hunt them all day long. So that's kind of different.
Well, that actually makes it nice. I mean, that's a good thing, really.
Correct. And like in Missouri, if a youth does shoot one during youth season, they cannot hunt again to that second weekend. So like how we were talking, that counts for their first week birth.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about letting the kids run a turkey call. Now, I've been with all sorts of them, and some of them don't even remotely sound like a turkey. However, sometimes that actually calls a turkey in. What do you recommend? What kind of a call do you recommend for a kid that you're going to teach them to call?
A push button.
Yeah.
One of those little push button squawk box. But my kids, believe it or not, they was able to run a slate call fairly decent. They're probably 8 or 9, and I got still videos of them. He could sound, not terrible. That would, I've heard some hens that sound worse. So, I'd let them play around when it kind of got slow, and and like I said, we've had them gobble at some of their calls. So they really like that when they think they're doing it. So.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, that's exactly right. I like a box call for a kid. Push button call is a great call. And like you said, just friction calls in general, with the right instruction, they can run them. I mean, they're not that hard, and they sound good. In fact, if you can teach a kid to sound, very good. But I remember taking a young kid once, I think it was my son before he was old enough to hunt, and he just wanted to play with the push button call and just nonstop, but turkeys were gobbling to it. So I said, keep doing it.
Yeah. Yep. You just never know.
Now, you're going to head, I think you said you were going to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm going to head to Oklahoma next weekend. I was going to do New Mexico and then Oklahoma, but we talked to the guy I was going to New Mexico with, and we decided to let's cancel this trip this year and go next year. So he said it's really dry down there in the Gila, and he said it just probably wouldn't be worth my time to drive down there this year. So
right. Now, you went to Florida last year and you shot your Osceola, your first Osceola.
Correct.
Give the folks a little idea of what you experienced down there.
It's not like hunting these Missouri Easterns. It's quiet. I like turkey hunting when they're gobbling back the whole time. We didn't hardly get that. It just so happened I was texting the landowner when I heard a spit drum. I looked up and there's a bird came out behind some palmettos about 35 yards, and I'm like, oh. So there, you got to really be paying attention down there. But it was neat, hunting in the palmettos and those pin oaks, with the moss, the Spanish moss everywhere. It was just, neat. I can't wait to go back. It's going to be definitely go back next year, I believe.
Yeah, and I was just in Florida, and like I said, I mentioned earlier, had really good luck. But here in South Georgia, our terrain here is exactly like it is in Florida. Now, if you hunt, middle of the state or North Georgia, then you get into the hardwoods more and pines, but you get into some of the hills and that kind of thing. Down here in South Georgia, we're hunting in the palmettos and all that same stuff, the swamps, and the mosquitoes are terrible and the ticks are terrible. And you better have a thermocell. And that's the other thing, when the youth season comes in and you're taking kids, if you're in an area that has lots of mosquitoes, maybe check out a thermocell, because I don't know about the kids, but I don't like to get bit by mosquitoes all day long. They drive me crazy.
Oh yeah. And then you can't sit still because you're always swatting at them. So, the first morning down in Florida last year, we did forget the thermocell, and it was it was a bad experience, let me tell you.
Yeah. And in Missouri and some other states, you guys are notorious for chiggers. And
yes.
I hate them. So make sure you spray, because if them kids come up with, and they also call them red bugs, but if they come out of the woods and they're full of those, they're going to be miserable and they're not going to want to go again. So, So how are we doing for time, Paul?
You got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Jordan, what else can we talk about?
Well, I was going to talk about the youth hunts. My son, his very first turkey, I was taking him and his cousin. She's 3 years older than my son. So my son was 8 and she was 11. It was her first hunt. We went to a spot that morning, didn't hear nothing. We went to another spot. We struck a bird. The bird was coming in on Bell's side. And, I told Austin, I said, let her shoot, because how this bird was probably 15 yards. He jumped up on a log and he gobbled. And my son was in my lap and he just shook because it scared him so bad. Well, Belle, she shoots and misses, and that bird stayed in full strut and gobbled at her shot. So I had time to turn my son, and that's how he killed his first bird after his cousin missed on a log at 15 yards. So that's
a neat story. And that reminds me of my son's very first turkey hunt, which I actually, we had filmed and was on a cutting and strutting turkey video. Pat Reeve, some people know Pat, he filmed that hunt. And I remember the first day we went out and we called in 2 gobblers, and they came in. We weren't sitting in a blind, and the turkeys ended up spotting us at the last moment, just before Dan was getting ready to shoot. Now he was young and a little guy, and they started putting and walked away, and we didn't get the shot. And I remember walking away and I felt terrible. And I said, "Oh, Dan, I'm sorry. We'll try to," and he said, "That's okay, Dad, just call in another one." Like it was just that easy.
Yeah.
Now we went back that day. Pat and I got a little nap, and my son, he was out of school and he was up hunting and he was watching TV all and didn't take a nap. So the next day we got up early and he didn't hardly even want to get up, got out there, got in the blind. And I mean, he was literally falling asleep in the blind as the turkey was coming in, and he was taking a long time coming in. And I kept tapping him saying, "Danny, getting close." He'd look up and then he wouldn't come. He'd be back asleep. I'd tap him and he'd go, "Dad, you keep saying that. You keep saying that." And I literally had to wake him up when the turkey was about 15 yards from the blind coming in. And when he shot that thing, I mean, I would just hope that all you parents get to experience a kid's first hunt, because if you haven't, there's not a better feeling in the world. There really isn't.
Oh, I took, speaking of, they think it's easy. I took my cousin's little boy 2 or 3 years ago with my son, and my uncle, he went with us. And we got to the blind just as they started gobbling. We got there just a tad late. And the time we got set up to the time he killed his turkey at our decoys was less than 20 minutes on his very first hunt. it took me 4 years to kill a turkey, and my little cousin killed one in 10 minutes, seemed like. And he was like,
Right.
and so he thinks it's that easy all the time. So
Right.
he's in
All right.
awakening.
All right. Well, to sum it up, so it's important to get kids out, and everybody out there, you use outdoors and sportsmen, make it a point to get a kid out. But remember, safety. Don't let them kids walk around with a loaded gun. Load it when you get to where you're going. But watch when you're crossing fences, and again, teach your kid all these things and safety and all those other things. But anyways, Jordan, I appreciate you being on the show tonight and talking about, kids in the outdoors. And thank you, Paul, for putting the show together. And I think we're probably about out of time. So, Jordan, we'll get you on again here down the road and see how your turkey season was. Any last comments?
No, I just want to, you be safe and everything else. Everybody out there going spring turkey hunting. Seems like everybody wants to hide behind a fan and turkey hunt anymore. So if you're doing that, be careful. So I see that's all over the interweb.
Maybe the easiest thing to say is just don't do it. They're gonna probably make it illegal in some states here before long. But anyways, listen, if it's legal and you do it safely, hey, more power to you. So anyways, we're gonna get going now, and I'm gonna actually go out and roost some turkeys here before the storm hits. But appreciate you being on, Jordan. And most importantly, we appreciate everybody that was watching and will be watching as we post the show. So make sure you join us next week's Wednesday, 6 to 6:30 Central Time on the hunt with Alpine Optics. And we'll be back, and we'll be talking, I'm sure, some spring turkey hunting and some other things, and guests to be determined. So anyways, Jordan, take care, folks. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you next week.
Is that a wrap?
We out, Paul.